Somewhere in the world, there is a person whose job is to sleep. Not because they're tired, not because it's a weekend, not because it's my daughter who's turning into a teenager, because they're being paid. Which raises an interesting question. At what point does a nap become a profession? Welcome back to This Is Someone's Job, a show about the strangest ways people make a living. If you've been here since the goldfish polisher, the professional queue stand-in, the professional mourner, and the golf ball diver, welcome back. And if you're new here, you've picked a very comfortable episode to start with. Because while most of us are desperately trying to stay awake at work, someone else is being paid to go to sleep. A professional sleeper is exactly what it sounds like. Someone who gets paid to sleep for research, testing, or product development purposes. Which means somewhere in the world, there are people who can honestly say, I'm not lazy, I'm working. Professional sleepers can work with sleep clinics, universities, mattress companies, hotels, and scientific researchers, which means there are genuine job adverts that effectively say, must be able to sleep. Finally, a skill I can confidently put on my CV. It turns out sleep is incredibly important. Scientists want to understand it. Companies want to improve it. And somebody has to actually do the sleeping. So while most research jobs involve laboratories, data collection, and complicated equipment, this one occasionally involves pyjamas. At some point, a researcher looked at a sleeping person and thought, we should write that down. And eventually an entire industry appeared. If you're thinking professional sleeping sounds easy, NASA would like a word. To help scientists understand what happens to the human body in space, NASA and its research partners have conducted studies with volunteers spent up to 60 or even 70 days in bed. Not relaxing, not watching television for a weekend, but 60 days in bed. Now, there is a catch. Participants don't just lie flat. They're positioned with their heads tilted slightly downwards to mimic some of the effect of weightlessness. Which means somebody somewhere has voluntarily spent 2 months living their life at a 6-degree angle. They eat in bed, exercise in bed, shower while remaining in that position, and spend their days being monitored by researchers studying how the body adapts to conditions similar to space travel. At first, that sounds like the easiest job in the world. Then you realise you haven't stood up in 7 weeks. Most participants say the biggest challenge isn't the discomfort, it's the boredom. Which means NASA have effectively discovered that even being paid to do nothing can eventually become hard work. And if humans ever make it to Mars, there's a chance we have a professional sleeper to thank. Now if you've listened to this and thinking, finally, a career path that matches my talents, there are apparently some skills involved. Professional bed testers and sleep reviewers don't just turn up immediately and start getting paid to nap. Many build experience learning about different types of mattresses, sleep environments, and what actually makes a bed comfortable. There are memory foam mattresses, hybrid mattresses, pocket sprung mattresses. That's something I didn't know before this podcast. Which means somewhere in the world there are people who know significantly more about mattresses than I ever expected anyone could. Some professional reviewers recommend travelling and sleeping in different hotels and beds to develop what they call a feel for sleep quality, which is possibly the best excuse for a holiday I've ever heard. And if you're trying to break into the industry, some experts suggest reviewing beds for free to build experience and credibility. Imagine explaining to your friends, sorry, busy this weekend, I'm building my mattress portfolio. It turns out professional sleeping isn't just sleeping. It's having opinions about sleeping. Strong opinions. Somewhere right now, there's probably a person passionately debating mattress firmness levels, and they're completely serious. Now, a typical day might involve arriving at a sleep laboratory, being connected to various sensors, having your heart rate monitored, your breathing monitored, your brain activity monitored, and then being told, Try to relax, which becomes significantly harder the moment someone says it. Imagine trying to fall asleep while fully aware that people are watching graphs of your brain. Whenever people hear about professional sleepers, they all have exactly the same reaction. That's my dream job. And honestly, I understand. But the reality is slightly different. Sleep studies can involve strict schedules, controlled environments, uncomfortable sensors, and occasionally being deliberately kept awake. Which means somewhere in the world, a professional sleeper has complained that work is making them too tired. Imagine explaining your career to someone at a dinner party. So what do? I sleep. No, what do you do for work? I sleep for work. At which point I imagine the conversation becomes very difficult to continue. Despite sounding ridiculous, this work generally helps improve sleep science. Researchers use these studies to understand sleep disorders, improve treatments, test products, and learn more about how the human body works. So while it might sound like the easiest job in the world, it's actually contributing to some surprisingly important research. Maybe the strange part isn't that professional sleepers exist. Maybe the strange part is that we somehow turned one of the most natural things humans do into a job. Human beings have spent thousands of years trying to avoid work. Eventually we invented a profession where the work is sleeping. And that's the thing. No matter how strange a job sounds, there's probably someone out there doing it. Getting paid. Paying taxes. Explaining it to their family at dinner. Maybe every strange profession starts the same way. Someone noticing something everybody else takes for granted. Until eventually, the world decides, fine, we'll pay for it. And if by any chance you happen to have an unusual job yourself, or know someone whose career sounds completely made up, I'd genuinely love to hear about it. You can reach the show at thatissomeonesjob@gmail.com. And tomorrow, while most of us are setting alarms to wake up for work, someone, somewhere, will be getting paid to sleep. Thank you for listening to This Is Someone's Job.